Hello, YouTube. It is the Stratosphere Lounge, and I just had a major shock. And when I say just had it, I mean 30 seconds ago, 40 seconds ago, just as we're pressing the record button. It's April 14th, 2025, and I thought, oh, how about that? April 14th. That's my dad's birthday. And then I realized, how old is he? Would he be? And then I realized my dad would be 100 years old today. This would have been his 100th birthday. He was born on April 14th, 1925. And I just sent a text to my brother and sister. And I wish I'd realized it earlier. But that is, well, that's only going to happen once, and I kind of wish I'd realized it earlier today. I would have, I think I would have shared it a little more. But in any event, yeah, it would have been he would have been a centurion, man. He'd be 100 years old today. How about that? So happy birthday, Dad. He never got to see any of the stuff I did. He was a big inspiration for the stuff I did. The first thing I really wrote at eject.com was an essay called "Honor" about him being interred at Arlington National Cemetery, and yeah, so he never got to see any of this stuff. But I'm assuming he's watching on widescreen TV up in heaven, and that's when he's busy not telling God how to run the place, because he's a hotel manager, and he was pretty, meticulous about things like that. Somebody's asking what's up with my pipes. Yeah, my voice is a little shot. I usually fall asleep like a bullet. Last night, for some reason, for the first time in forever, I just didn't sleep. I probably got 2-3 hours of sleep last night. If you hang on 1 second, let me just get another water here. Talk amongst yourselves. So, got all kinds of fun things to do tonight, and we have part two of our Store Mechanics interview with Mike Rowe, and so I guess we could get on to that. And then I've got a couple of other videos that I wanted to share with you, because I'm kind of curious to know whether or not this stuff makes sense to you. We got a really smart audience here, and this guy, I've been talking a lot about it with this quantum information holography, and it sounds, I want to get people's opinion on it, because I'm listening to this, and part of it sounds like almost like the worst kind of, well, not the worst kind, really, it's nothing tragically bad or anything, but it's part of it sounds just so, that's better, so hippy dippy, and then the other part of it sounds like, now this guy may actually have figured something out, really, really important, and so I thought I'd let you guys get an exposure to it. So I've got two of those to show, but I've also got the second of the micro interview things. So those are queued up and ready to go. Just take this real quick, just before we get into it, because I generally like to let the room warm up, and we always start about 10 minutes late, 15 minutes late. So let's just let the room fill up a little bit, let people get to their seats. Dennis Smith asked, does anybody know if I've talked about Bill Maher meeting Trump yet? I haven't talked about it yet. I might talk about it tomorrow morning. We shoot our right angles tomorrow morning. It's a breakthrough moment, not just because it's not like, hey, we won Bill Maher. It's much bigger than that. It's it's Bill Maher, who's obviously, along with Jon Stewart, and because I don't count the yahoos on late night TV, even though they're all political pundits. They're certainly not comedy hosts. So I don't really count Jimmy Kimmel or Seth Meyers or Steve Colbert as thought leaders, but Bill Maher is, and Jon Stewart is, and Bill Maher. Lord Bauer says we didn't win Bill Maher. The left lost him. Well, there's no question that the left has lost him. That Maher's been moving away from their radical positions, but this is not the same as saying, "Wow, I really agree with Trump on this one." This is saying, "I sat with Trump, and he's actually a really decent guy." That's the entire narrative, just blown to pieces. It's a big deal, and I might cover that tomorrow if I give it a little more thought. So it's a great question, and I'd love to take it a little further. Yeah, it's a big win. Maher's main point, according to Marusha, is not actually crazy. He's just good at playing crazy on TV. He's not actually crazy. It's the only part of that sentence that matters. That's the only part of that sentence that matters. Joseph Walensky's got it right on the money. He says it's easier to hate someone you've never met. Absolutely right. Absolutely right. And I think it's a major deal. I saw a clip of, not of Maher talking about Trump, but right afterwards, where some guy was saying, well, opposing viewpoint, you made a mistake in going. Yeah, well, did he? He certainly made a mistake in going. If you're going to preserve the leftist narrative, that was a critical mistake. But if you're intellectually honest, I every time I get into a situation like this or see something like this, I try to reverse the situation and see how I would feel about it. I just try to reverse the polarity, and so I say to myself, well, what would happen if I were to go and have dinner with Barack Obama, and then what would happen if I came out of there thinking, I actually like Barack Obama. Don't take that out of context. It's just saying hypothetically, if I went there, what would that mean? I think for me it would mean, okay, so the guy's not, maybe the guy is smarter than I give him credit for. I've always thought he was a bit of an intellectual fraud. Maybe he's, maybe he's genuinely, I could see myself coming out of a dinner with Barack Obama and saying, this man actually, despite what I originally thought, this man actually genuinely does love and care about America. I just hate the way he's going about doing it. So that's as far as I think I would go. But in fact, that's as far, I know that's as far as I would go. But this business about hating people you don't know is really spot on and really the source of so many of our problems. It's a real breakthrough, and I think it's. Steve Whoop says now do AOC. I had dinner with AOC and I just don't remember it. I just fell asleep. So anyway, the winning just keeps on a coming. So there's that. Okay, so I've got the micro thing teed up on both Twitch and YouTube, and then I've got the quantum information holography, the first one, teed up on YouTube. So let's do micro, and then I'll set up the quantum information holography, and we'll take it from there. So, here's Roadrunner with a super chat. Let me get this real out of the way. Great first episode. I saw this comment on the website. If you can get the breaks in the great first episode of Story Mechanics, if you can get the breaks in the middle and the ending sequence to flow more smoothly, this will go from great to outstanding. And patiently waiting for the next episode. Saw that on the website. Oh, by the way, we've been working on the website. We're becoming, we've been saying this forever. It seems like we're getting more and more convinced that that this slowness, the website goes from a 1 to 2 second load to a 9 to 10 second load when you log in, and we think it's because of the forum. Somebody was kind enough to do a real analysis and point out two of the images on the website take 23 seconds or something to load. And those are not images that I put up there. So one of the things we're trying to find out, I did get an email from Jim about this stuff. Hey, Reverend. The I don't know why some of the stuff seems so much harder than it should be. A lot of it is, dealing with somebody on the other side of the world, and I talked about that before. That's more of a security issue, really, than anything. I don't want to hand my website over to a web designer who's more than likely, a Kamala Harris voter. But what I'm trying to do is see if we can just deactivate the forum module just for a while, just to see if that was it. So in any event, we'll have a look. Anyway, let's go ahead and have a look at Micro Part 2, which is called the hook. So yeah, let's see. I'm going to do, what am I going to do first? I'm going to do Twitch first. Okay, here we go. Ready? Where did I put him? There he is. Okay, it's about 8 minutes. We'll be back right after station identification. Here we go. Okay, Twitch here. Okay, YouTube. Here we go. Hang on a second. So let's talk a little bit about the tools of the trade, okay, for storytelling fella. It seems like you when you start on a story, you pretty quickly got to get to the hook. And the best hook I ever heard in my life ever was, in fact, I've done a number of history series, and my interest in history was absolutely kickstarted by Ken Burns' Civil War. And the very, very first thing in Ken Burns' Civil War is, if you have any knowledge at all, you know that, First Bull Run, First Manassas was the first major battle of the war. And he talks about this guy, Wilbur McLean, who had a house in First Bull Run, and they had the battle there, and cannonballs are coming through his windows, and his mom's nearly killed, and so on. And Wilbur McLean says, my God, I got to get the hell out of here. I'm in the middle of Virginia. I got to leave this house and get out of here and go someplace safe. So he leaves his house in First Bull Run, and he goes and buys a house in the town of Appomattox. He buys the courthouse. And then the narrator says, Wilbur McLean could say that the Civil War started in his backyard and ended in his parlor. And when that 3-minute beat was over, I was in for the rest of it. Just in. So the hook, it doesn't have to be drama. It doesn't have to be anything even particularly spectacular, but really early, you got to have something in that story that makes people want to listen to the rest of it.
The hook also has a barb on it, and the barb is really important too. There are many different kinds of hooks, and there's lots of different types of bait. And what you use is, reliant or dependent oftentimes on what exactly you're fishing for. Ken Burns was broadcasting. He had to hook a lot of people. And he used a couple other elements that I think of as barbs on the hook. One was the narrator himself. He could have hired me, with all due modesty. He could have hired James Earl Jones. He could have hired any of the great working narrators in the business. He didn't. He hired David McCullough, who also happens to be one of the great writers and wrote a book, if not the book, on the Civil War. So most people don't know that. Most people watched that segment you just described and were hooked because of the content in it. But it's hard to put a value on the verisimilitude that comes along with a narrator like that, who was both confident. That thing hooked me before the words did.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, as a documentarian, Ken chose the perfect rendition of the perfect melody to just evoke all of the sentimentality and Wertschmalz. And that song combined with McCullough's narration. And then there's another guy, the real sleeper star of that documentary was Shelby Foote.
My all-time favorite. I read his trilogy 3 times.
Oh my dude,
And
that
that Southern Virginia, that Virginia accent coming off his tongue like honey.
every
Yeah, everything.
it was, and again, I'll give Ken all due credit because he deserves it, but I just don't know a better example of understated horror, right? I mean, whether Shelby's telling you about the kind of letters that were being written home, right? I mean, that was such a great device to tell that story as well, because a letter is its own story. It's like the Russian nesting eggs. Now you
Yeah,
got stories
and
within stories.
and you get the read and you get the music. That was Ashwin Farewell as well. And you get the all of the pathos, just the sheer artistry of the letter. And then you get McCullough saying Sullivan Ballou was killed in battle on first Bull Run.
That
And you just knocks the wind out of you. Well, people were crying all across the country. I mean, the entire country was crying, and they're crying because you got a guy with a great voice, you've got a good script, and you've got a grainy black and white photograph.
And
you know,
this is our story, Bill.
it is.
It's his story, but he is us, right? I mean, we're sitting there watching something that really, I mean, it feels a long, long way away, but actually, it's that, right? It was,
And it's the timelessness of the advice, right? To that his son would grow up to honorable manhood and all of these things that and I think the reason that hit so hard was because so many Americans, I think, felt like we've lost something since Sullivan Ballou.
Yeah.
That honey, if I never see you again, your name will be the last words on my lips, and that we had as much time together as we could, and that the Union needs me, and that if I'm killed, we need to raise our son to honorable manhood, and we look around and we don't see so much honorable manhood anymore, and it was just this kind of ache for something really primal, that we seem to be missing.
Also, too, it was such a nice juxtaposition between, again, that intensely human individual thing you just articulated, right next to the cold calculus of technology and tactics, right? But Shelby did it even better in that episode when he talked about the confusion in the aftermath of Shiloh, when for the first time you had rows of men, boys really, 4, 5, sometimes 6 deep, all killed by the same bullet. That had never happened before because never before had technology so outpaced tactics, right? And so the reason it landed with such a thud. Now you got to picture me. I'm that came out 25 years ago. I'm sitting there next to my dad who taught this very course. And I look over and I see my dad weeping as Shelby Foote is describing how we could have stumbled into a world where a single bullet can kill 6 guys. And then the confusion of the people coming in to clean up the dead, just looking at it, saying, what have we unleashed here?
Pieces of people, yeah.
Pieces of people. And of course the pigs come out and they feast on the dead. And to bring it back to the story and not just the facts and not just the history of it, but to have Shelby Foote describing it with all, he was almost tired, Bill. He was almost just, it was so matter
Shelby
of fact
Foote,
and reflective.
it's like Shelby. The reason Shelby Foote was so effective in the Civil War was because everybody who watched him had the feeling he was there and saw it with his own eyes. He sounded like he saw it with his own eyes.
It's like Quint sitting there in that town meeting,
Yep.
I'll get you, Shark. He's seen it all. He's read
seen
it all. He's written it all. But, he still has something to say to people who maybe haven't heard it before.
We delivered the bomb.
Yeah, we delivered the bomb. That's the speech, right? That's the speech.
Okay, so there you go. That's that's part two of Micro, and it was interesting. The well, actually, Steve Young is on something that's really important to me. He said, "You're talking a lot as the interviewer. It's conversational. I think it works." Yes, I didn't want this to be an interview show. I wanted this to be a conversation. These guys get interviewed all the time. I wanted something where it was a conversation. And the nice thing I mean, if I take myself out of the picture completely, the nice thing about leading off with Mike is that I've done his show. Gosh, I bet I've done 13, 14 of his shows. So, so again, just from an outsider's point of view, the great thing about opening up with Mike is that when I talk with Mike, Mike treats me, like an equal, and gives me a lot of legitimacy. He listens when I'm talking, and so that respect goes both ways and goes a long way back. So I think it's going to work. So we'll see. The next beat, the music beat, is very short. It's only about a minute and a half, 2 minutes. Then I think there's three more after that on storytelling, and then there's a whole nother hour on hard work and the common man. So what's interesting looking at this is that this episode is called The Hook, because I meant what I said about that 3-minute intro to the Civil War with I said Wilbur McLean. It's Wilmer McLean. But once that the Civil War started in his backyard and ended in his parlor, I was in for all of the episodes. I don't know how many there were. It seems like there were 8 or something like that. And so the entire Story Mechanics episode turned into a discussion of Ken Burns' Civil War, because now we got hooked on it twice. So anyway, there's that. So I'm just real happy with it. I'm going to get. Oh no. I just, well, it's not like this is going to knock me completely off my perch, but Dante 2K in the YouTube stream says R.I.P. Jed the Fish from KROQ Glory Days. And that's going to mean very, very little to people, unless you lived in Los Angeles in the 1980s, and I did. Jed the Fish from KKKRRRRROQ back in the 80s. I got here and listened to KROQ, and it was nothing but 80s music because it was the 80s. And Jed the Fish was the afternoon drive home guy. I listened to him a lot. So apparently he's passed away. I'm sorry to hear that. Jed the Fish and Poor Man and what's his name? Richard Blade. Yeah, those were the days. So anyway, I'm sorry to hear that about Jed the Fish. He was a interesting voice. So anyway, that's that. So I'm going to get that second one up to the website and put it out to people. And I'm still trying to figure out. And I could certainly use some feedback on this. Then we'll go to quantum information holography, and then we'll go to the questions. So my question is for you guys in the comments section, because obviously if you're watching this recorded, it's not going to really help too much. But we've got 130 people at YouTube and 40 on Twitch. So these Story Mechanics shows are designed to reach a whole entirely new audience of people and keep the same people that we already have. So I've spent a lot of time getting the show ready and thinking about the show, and we're be prepared to go in May with hopefully with Gary Sinise if he can clear a schedule. We've certainly got lots of people we can do, and all of them names. So the question is, and I know most of you watching this or well, significant number of you watching the Stratosphere shows are members. So the question is, how do we turn Story Mechanics into BillWhittle.com memberships? I said I wanted to keep the channel separate, and I did. It's got the own story mechanics channel, and I wanted to keep politics out of it, and I will. And nevertheless, I can't. Not only can I not, I don't want to hide, who I am or my background. So the question is, what what's the do you think, as either members or potential members, what do you think the best strategy, the best approach is for getting this, for ABC? Always be closing. Always be closing. Now, either the stream has stopped or everybody's been stunned into silence because both comment streams. Maybe everybody's typing furiously, but I feel like all of a sudden I'm left alone on a desert island here. I think the appeal is. I think the pitch needs to be. Look, we have averted catastrophe, and and now we have to reach people with a positive message. And this show, which is ostensibly not about politics, isn't about politics so much as it's about morality. It's about storytelling and about characters, and all of these characters in films are even the villains are really helping us, you know. So it seems to me that is the way to sell it, is to say, listen, this is a way to bring people who are not inclined to listen to a political message. Come and listen to the moral message. Listen to Mike Rowe and listen to Gary Sinise and listen to John Voight and explain and come for the movies, but stay for the character. That's actually rather a good line, come to think of it. In fact, that's probably the tagline. I really think that's actually pretty close to perfect for what I'm actually trying to do here. Or maybe come for the movie star, stay for the character, one or the other. Writing it down here. And character has kind of a double meaning there too as well. Shadark says moral high ground, finding common ground outside of politics that people can relate to. It's like you've said before, most stories are conservative even if the writers and the actors are liberal. P7 2017 over YouTube says, come for the story, stay for the character. That's obviously much better. That's much better. Thanks, Wuzu. Wuzgo. What's going on? I don't know what's going on with you. Create enduring culture and damn if it isn't conservative in nature. I think that's the pitch. So, yeah, I think that's probably the way to go. And before I start, I still obviously coming for the getting everything stress tested and buttoned up. But I think right now what I need to do is put, keep getting segments up there, so that when you get to the YouTube page, it doesn't look completely empty. So we'll put a couple of them up there. Rich says, I still like the formula of members only segment for more controversial and uncensored stuff in terms of driving revenue. Daily Wire does it. Tim Pool does it. Lotus Eaters does it, and then people can find your stuff that way. You need enough segments to where people can binge watch for an hour or two, and Marusha Dark agrees with that too. So, yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep editing these things. I don't have any. It doesn't help me to pace them out to release one a week or so on. So I probably will release. In fact, I'm quite certain I will be able to release the next one, which I said is a short one. The music and the story we'll have that for Thursday night on Stratosphere Lounge. I like the idea of premiering them on the Stratosphere shows. I think that's cool. Gather around the campfire is also a damn good idea. Cartoon Dave, that's another. So, yeah, well, one per day is going to be a little more than I can edit right now. Beneficial, yeah, well, I need to get the membership up. So I think Marushi said, I wonder if it'd be beneficial, set aside the movie stuff, just go full bore on story mechanics, at least for a while until it gains momentum. I think that's really the plan. If Mike Rowe is Mike Rowe, and one celebrity is a point. If we can get Gary next, then two celebrities is a line, and then if we can get Johnny Voight or somebody like, somebody of that stature afterwards, then 3 points is a trend, and it's not a fluke, So I think that's basically the way to go. Yeah, I think that positive message and the idea that movie making and storytelling is conservative is nice, because it is so contrary to what people expect you're going to say. So I need to put together a channel promo, a real short one, cut a lot of movie scenes into it, and to cover the narration. That's really what I need to do. I need to write a 60-second elevator pitch for the channel and for the goal of the channel, and then use that everywhere. Yeah, certainly have it have it be playing default on the YouTube page, and maybe stick it at the end of every one of these things, or every maybe once every 5 days or 5 posts or something like that. So there you go. And then I just downloaded a book. I just only read just to crack the first chapter, called the Puppet Master's Guide, I think. It's about psychological manipulation and sales and advertising and stuff. And I don't like the idea of psychological manipulation, but I don't hate it either. No, I think the thing that might be useful from that book is not so much how you can fool people into things, so much as it is understanding the psychology of the sale, which is not my strong suit by any means. Yeah. So yeah, and you busted Half Nickel Swamp over on YouTube says that's also why President Trump added, "We are a MAGA party of not just common sense, but open-minded, down-to-earth people who are USA first patriots." Exactly. And it's kind of the approach I think we need to take with story mechanics is, look, this is universal language, and this is us talking about how we make the universal language. And if it turns out that that this is just, yeah, come for the story, stay for the character. And you can't listen to guys like Mike Rowe, especially when we start getting into the archetype of the American regular guy, the working man, the Mr. Smith goes to Washington, George Bailey, that kind of guy. You can't listen to that without having some of it soak in. So yeah, P7 says it's kind of wicked important to not get in the habit of letting the left redefine terms. So anyway, there we go. I am a character. Thank you very much, Eric. So are you. You are a main character here at the Stratosphere community, and so there you go. Yes, and Cartoon Dave says it's not fooling; you're just persuading. That's right. That's exactly right. That seems like a good plan, and that helped me actually clarify this quite a bit. Okay, so let's shift gears for a little bit. Why don't we? Back to the kind of the groundwork of the colonies, because I can't be doing. I've obviously got to keep. I don't have to do anything, but I'm finding and have been trying to discipline myself to stay on one thing at a time and get one thing up and rolling. So I think having talked this stuff through with you guys is not just a great therapy session for me, these Stratosphere shows, but it's also a great learning experience. I think the thing to do is to just get through, edit all of them, get them up there, and then edit the the political show, and see how many people we can get based on that with Mike. But really, I don't think it's going to really start to jive until we get, like Gary, get a second one up there or something like that. And I think then people start taking it seriously. So there you go. Now, ideally, I'd like, as I've said before, I'd like this to be over. I don't expect this to happen overnight by any means, but ideally, I'd like this to be perhaps a foot in the door with the critical drinker nerdrotic pop culture crowd. So there's that as well. So I think this will really help. So there we go. Okay. I think that'll do it. All right. So now I've got this quantum information holography thing. I've got one video to show. I haven't sent a link to Gary yet. Roadrunner says, if you sent it to Gary yet, no. All the people that I mentioned and the people who are on the website have already agreed to do it without having seen it. So I'm going to get all of the micro stuff finished, and then I'm going to cut a version of the micro storytelling, which would be the 5 or 6 segments you're about to see. Put it all in one place if you want to watch the whole thing. And I think this is a good strategy, is to break it down into these individual beats, but then you basically put it together. And then I'm going to send that to Gary. Gary just did the Mike Rowe show not long ago at all, so I think Gary's a slam dunk for this, really. And then we'll see. Yeah, you busted Half Nickel Swamps. It'd be epic AF to get me on the Joe Rogan podcast. That's a tough seat to get, man. But you never know. Stranger things have happened. So right now I'm just trying to stay on an upward trajectory and stay focused. Good morning from Norway. I love Norway. I was in Norway, Morten Lund. I was in Oslo in 2018, I think, for 4 or 5 days, and I just loved it. I absolutely loved it. And I love the history. I love Norwegian history. Always loved Norway. And that is a long country. I had a Norwegian tell me the difference, the distance from the top of Norway to the bottom of Norway is the same as the distance from like Oslo to, it's like Baghdad or something. It's insane. It's crazy. Yeah, good to have you here, and I hope you're having a great morning. I would reckon somewhere over there. And hi everybody, greetings from America to all our Norwegian friends and allies, and thanks an awful lot for sinking the Nazi heavy water. That was really deeply appreciated. I've been here twice. Well, I hope you had a good time. Most people come to America visit the cities, certainly come in at the cities, no question about that. But really, I think that my experience has been that the people that really have the best experience with America are the ones that get a chance to, just get out in the country and just see what swell people there. I was watching a video that Heather McDonald did. She said coming to America from the UK reminded her of how much freedom they've lost in the UK. And that was a really kind of heartbreaking kind of thing. Just about morning in Svalbard. Well, hooray. They just never get over it. We have people from New Zealand and Australia, obviously, and all around the world, and it's very flattering and kind of mind-boggling to me. So in any event, I think also that story mechanics will appeal more to an international audience, so I need to keep that in mind as well. Yeah. All right. let's talk about something. Put this up. We'll put up story mechanics now, and we'll get to different subject. Since I've been busy editing, I can't really do much tangible stuff with the colonies, other than do an awful lot of the thinking and a lot of the kind of intellectual foundation work. And that I have been doing a lot of. And as you know, we're not, fortunately, you'll be pleased to know we're not going to be doing any big Grok sessions tonight. But having spent a lot of time talking with Grok and trying to get a handle on the energy thing, I tried to do the, how much energy would it take to get to relativistic speeds? How much energy would it take to actually punch a wormhole? And to punch a wormhole is first of all, they would require negative energy. They don't even know if that exists. It's not the same as dark energy or dark matter, which may not exist at all, because we're finding out now that from James Webb that as the universe expands, it's starting to appear that these voids where there aren't any galaxy clusters, that time may run differently inside these voids, that there might be different time clocks depending on where you are in the universe, which would explain the expansion being greater than it would appear to be based on the amount of matter in the universe. So all of this stuff, right? Wormholes, stargates, all of this stuff is old news, man. And this quantum information holography really appeals to me because I have a gut instinct that's telling me it's true. And my gut instinct is based on, 50 years of astronomy and as much physics as I can follow, astrophysics especially. And so all of the terms that we use in science fiction now, including Strange New Worlds or whatever, which is I've never watched an episode of and have no particular desire to, because can somebody please get a flashlight in here so we can see where the hell we're going, so I don't trip over the bloody console. It's just ridiculous. Anyway, wormhole, stargate, warp drive, relativistic, time dilation, all of these terms are 100 years old. They're over 100 years old. They're almost 125 years old. They go back to 1903 and 1907 and that ballpark. So what I like about this, what I'm about to show you, this quantum information holography, is it feels like 21st century science. And it feels like, and it not only feels like, it looks like something I've never seen before. And that's what the colonies is all about from a entertainment point of view. From a science fiction point of view, I want every single thing in it to be something that's never been seen before. I want the space travel to be realistic. I want the weapons to be realistic. I want everything to be realistic as it can be. And no laziness and ideally no magic. So what I want to show you is a theory, and the guy is these animations are beautifully produced. What is his name? Hang in there. I'm sorry, one second. Sorry. I just mentioned I sent the fact that my dad's 100 years old today, would have been 100 years old today. So I just had to answer that. Oh, and where'd it go? Hang on, sorry, because I want to get this guy's name. I thought this was just beautiful stuff, and it is, but hang on, I'm sorry, not that. Where's the other one? What is this guy's name? Sorry, I hate this. It'd be nice to have a producer, but I don't. So, strangely enough, by the way, this stuff looks and sounds an awful lot like Natasha's page. So I'm going to play it for you. I'm going to. So God, I'm going to find this if it kills me. Come on, wait, what? I must have this screen too small. There it is. Jason Paget is his name. And so this is Jason Paget's theory. It's his own theory. It's his theory that belongs to him, and it is his own theory, which is his own theory, which he did on his own by himself, working as his own theorist. This is his theory about space, his space theory. So I got two of them. Let me tee these up, and again, it's going to be awkward. And I'm here by myself with two feeds to feed. So let's just, let's hear it for the boy. All right, so we'll start with YouTube. Now, YouTube, I'm going to drop it in YouTube, then I'm going to drop it in Twitch. It's going to cycle on YouTube. I'll come back and get it as fast as I can. Everybody be cool. Here it comes on YouTube, and then I'm going to resize it on Twitch. Ready? Okay, and just watch it with an open mind. And for those of you out there like I said, we got some real smart people here. Tell me if this sounds like somebody is trying to use physics words, or tell me, and this is it's a possibility, or tell me if you think that that this is actually an entirely new and possibly, real way to see the universe. In any event, it's very beautiful, and it's got a really 21st century feel. And if somebody puts us in science fiction stuff, it's going to be me, by God. Okay, so here we go for YouTube.
The unified field, how spinning light shapes our universe. In quantum information holography, or QIH, the universe isn't made up of solid particles, but of spinning light, quantum state vectors, or QSVs. These aren't merely energy, they're packets of information. Each QSV spins at the speed of light and carries 4 essential elements: amplitude, frequency, direction, and phase. Imagine the universe as a grand projection. From a singularity, the universe's origin point, QSVs project outward and imprint onto a spherical surface known as the event horizon. Every point on this horizon acts like a detector capturing the encoded information. This process forms the geometry we perceive as space, time, matter, and force. Now let's break down how each fundamental force emerges from these spinning vectors. Gravity. The curvature of coherence. Gravity in QIH arises from the collective alignment of many QSVs. When these vectors align in phase and frequency, they generate smooth, coherent curvature. This bending of space-time isn't a pull, but a shift in probability. Matter follows the most likely path through this curved geometry. The more QSVs spin together, the more pronounced the curvature, and what we call mass is actually the total angular frequency of this coherent pattern. Electromagnetism, the geometry of spin angle. Electromagnetism emerges from how individual QSVs project onto qubits at specific angles. When the angle is just right, it creates curvature that becomes electric charge. As QSVs move, their spin generates magnetic fields. Together, these fields form the electromagnetic force. QIH reveals that the fine structure constant, which defines the strength of this interaction, isn't arbitrary. It stems from the electron spin frequency and the projection geometry, aligning perfectly with experimental values. The weak force transformation through phase shift. The weak force occurs when a QSV rotates slightly out of alignment. This phase shift disrupts the projection, allowing particles to change identity, like neutrons converting into protons. Because this misalignment quickly decoheres, the force is short-range and mediated by massive particles, W and Z bosons. Their mass and short lifespan are a result of their unstable spin geometry. The strong force locked interference. The strong force results from 3 QSVs locking into perfect phase alignment, corresponding to what physicists call red, green, and blue color charges. This forms a tightly bound interference pattern, creating protons and neutrons. Unlike other forces, the strong force doesn't allow its components to separate. If one QSV tries to pull away, the pattern collapses and new QSVs emerge to maintain balance. This phenomenon, known as confinement, ensures certain spin symmetries stay intact. The bigger picture, one field, many expressions. In QIH, the four fundamental forces are different expressions of how spinning light interferes. Gravity emerges from collective spin, creating spatial curvature. Electromagnetism arises from angled spin projecting fields, the weak force results from temporary misalignment and phase flipping. The strong force stems from locked spin symmetries in three-particle systems. These forces are not separate interactions, but modes of the same universal projection. Even the constants we use in physics, the charge of an electron, the strength of gravity, the fine structure constant, emerge naturally from the spin frequency and projection geometry of light itself. Final Thought QIH offers a revolutionary way to understand the universe. Everything, forces, matter, motion, comes from how spin is organized and aligned at the smallest scales. We are not separate from the universe, we are part of its projection. We are woven into its pattern. So next time you look up at the stars, remember, it's all spinning light, shaping the very fabric of our reality. Jason Paget, 2025. The Unified Field, How Spinning Light Shapes Our Universe. In quantum information holography, or QIH, the universe is...
Okay, hang on, everybody be cool here. Be cool, everybody be cool. All right. Oop. Okay, we back with audio? Yes, we're back with audio. I actually should have shown you that one second. Let me show you the other one first. The other one is broader. The other one's a little more hippy-dippy. This one was more focused on this. There's a couple comments that I think are really spot on. Andrew DeLay says, I have a PhD in physics, 30 years old, and I can't tell if this is pure nonsense or not. I suspect it is nonsense. There's a line I like an awful lot too. Where did it go? Come on. I can't find it who said it. But somebody said the encabulation is strong with this one from the turbo encabulator, which was nothing but jargon. And this is my favorite of the bunch by far. PGT MR2 says it. If it's bullshit, it's fabulous. Let me just play you one more, and then you can tell me what you think. But okay, let's take this two different ways. We can certainly look at this as whether this is real physics or not. But as a science fiction device, as remember how radical it was for Star Trek in 1966 to be talking about warping space-time. That if you look at the original Star Trek pilot, The Cage, they'll say, okay, proceed at space warp factor 4. They didn't say warp factor, they said space warp factor 4. So the idea that they were using warp space-time in 1966 for Star Trek was revolutionary. And no one has gotten past it. No one has gotten past it. No one's talking about anything other than relativistic terms. Wormholes, like I said, stargates, all of these things. So here's the other one. Give me a second. He said time warp factor 7? Surely not. Did he? I thought he said space warp factor. Okay, let me put the other one up here, and you can, and then I'll play that, and then we'll discuss it. So coming into YouTube first again. So everybody be cool. 1 second. Make it so. Yes. Here. Come here. And I'll open it up a little bit.
The universe does not speak in words. It does not whisper in symbols of human invention.
So
it speaks in light, in the spin of quantum state vectors on the holographic screen. This is the holocode, the true language that encodes existence itself. The cosmic script written not in letters, but in the rhythm of light itself. Everything you have ever seen, every moment you have ever lived, every thought you have ever had, all are woven from this fundamental code. The holocode is not just the foundation of reality, it is reality, and you are written within it. Beneath everything we perceive, there is a deeper layer of structure, a hidden alphabet written in the fabric of space itself. This alphabet is not made of ink and paper, nor of sounds and syllables, but of spinning qubits, tiny glowing spheres of light, each carrying a sliver of information. These qubits do not exist alone. They stack, they entangle, they interfere, they weave together, forming the sentences and paragraphs of the universe's unfolding story. Each qubit is a spinning event horizon, like the surface of a black hole, but scaled down to the tiniest possible size. Each one carries a fragment of reality, a single glowing note in the grand symphony of existence. As they spin and align, they form the structure of space and time. Some stack in ways that reinforce, creating the weight of gravity, the flow of time, the mass of stars. Others cancel, fading into the void. This is the true nature of reality. A lattice of stacked qubits, a shifting network of light and information shaping the universe from moment to moment. The universe does not sit still. It is computation, constantly evolving, constantly rewriting itself. Just like a vast cosmic large language model, learning, adjusting, refining its structure with every passing moment. If you have ever watched an AI learn, if you have ever seen it generate sentences, create images, predict the next word in a sequence, you have witnessed a shadow of the process that drives the universe itself. Just as a neural network builds meaning by stacking and weighing probabilities, the universe constructs reality by stacking and weighing the alignment of event horizons. Each event horizon is a qubit, a block sphere, its quantum state vector rotating in response to interference from all others. Each horizon is a discrete unit of information, yet the interference between them determines which futures emerge, which structures persist, which pathways of time are chosen. This is why Hawking radiation is more than decay. It is the feedback loop of the universe, the mechanism through which the holocode corrects, refines, and restructures its own evolution. The fabric of reality does not sit still. It is constantly rewriting itself, shifting interference patterns, optimizing the structure of information. The past is not lost. It is repurposed, restructured, woven into the next iteration of existence. And so, consciousness itself is not an anomaly. It is another layer of this recursion, another process of stacking and refinement. Thought is entanglement. Memory is the imprint of interference, and learning is the alignment of stacked probabilities. We are not outside this process, we are this process. Reality is not fixed, it is not static. It is a living script, a recursive computation where stacked event horizons determine the flow of time, the shape of space, and the probabilities of the future. Some pathways reinforce, strengthening into certainty, forming the dense gravity of existence. Others cancel, fading into the void, vanishing like unwritten pages. The universe does not move through time. It selects paths from the superposition of all possible futures, collapsing and rewriting itself with every passing moment. We are not separate from this process. We are the projection of the holocode. Every decision, every breath, every thought is a stacking of event horizons, a shifting of probabilities, a ripple in the lightscape of the cosmic script. This is why we feel the past lingering in the present, why memories echo through time, why moments of love and loss seem to stretch beyond themselves, because they are not truly gone, only folded into the next layer of interference, waiting to be stacked again in another form, another path, another story. The holocode does not end, it does not vanish. It folds back into itself, an Ouroboros of transformation, a cosmic recursion where the beginning is the end of the end. What was written yesterday becomes the foundation for what will be written tomorrow. What collapses into history still lingers in the interference of time, waiting to be stacked again in a new form, a new reality, a new projection of light. This is the true language of the universe, not static, not fixed. Light is constantly shifting, rewriting, and always evolving. We are not separate from this universal lightscape, nor are we mere readers of it. We and the universe are written in the holocode. We are projections of light and the information it contains, and as long as event horizons stack, as long as light moves, as long as interference ripples through the quantum state vector field of existence, the universe will continue to speak. We are not just part of the process, we are the process. The universe does not speak in words, it does not whisper in symbols of human invention. It speaks in light, in the pulse of interference, in the stacking of event horizons, in the spin of quantum state vectors on the holographic screen. This is the holocode.
Okay, am I back with audio? Looks like I'm back with audio. Okay, a lot of this one had a lot more. I don't want to say disparaging comments, but a little more negative comments because it is hippie, a little more hippy dippy. And I got to tell you, I happen to agree with Marusha on this. I'm just going to read what he wrote. And I didn't read the whole sentence, I just read the beginning. Bill, this sounds way more cohesive and coherent than quantum mechanics and relativity. Everything is light, everything is frequency. This has been known for millennia, and the union of religion and science. If you think about a monitor, you can theoretically make anything just by changing the pixel colors. I once calculated you could have roughly 556.6 quadrillion unique images on a standard 1920 by 1280 screen, including every impossible thing. You just got to find the right frequency. A lot of other people say it's just basically psychobabble with interesting animations and so on. So let me just address. I'm going to get deeper into this. I mean, after the show, over the course of time. But stick around for a second. I have heard psychobabble before, and I've heard jargon, turbo encabulator jargon before. I ought to play the turbo encabulator video. I should do that every year. It's just incredible. But I don't hear anything in this. I hear lots and lots of things in this that sound very new agey, but I don't hear anything in this that is an actual self-contradictory statement or anything in it that lit an alarm in my head that said, well, that's just plain nonsense. It's a new way of looking at things. So one thing out of both of those videos, one sentence that actually really got me thinking, because we're trying to find the unified field theory to explain the four forces. There's a strong nuclear force, weak nuclear force, electromagnetism, and gravity. And they're able to get three of them together, but they can't get gravity in the barn. At least this is where physics was 10, 15 years ago or something, and so on. And so Newton saw gravity as a attracting force, like a cable connecting the Earth to the moon, and this theory works very, very well. We went to the moon on Newtonian physics. Unless you're dealing with very, very high velocities or very, very strong gravity wells, Newtonian physics works just fine. So the idea of the planets in motion, they're tied by invisible cable of force called gravity, and this gravity force holds on to the planets as they orbit the sun, and that explains the motion of the solar system. And you can do very, 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 very accurate predictions using this model. Then 100 years ago, along comes Einstein, and Einstein says that no, there is no invisible rope. There is no gravity in the sense of it being a force. What the sun does is the sun bends space-time, and the planets move through curved space-time. Essentially, the planets are traveling in a straight line, but they're traveling in a straight line through curved space-time, which is why they appear to circle and orbit the sun. And this took a long, long time for people to get comfortable with in the first half of the 20th century, but by the time you get to Star Trek, it's been so repeatedly proven that Gene Roddenberry and all the rest of the geniuses, like Harlan Ellison and all of the rest of the writers for Star Trek, said, let's incorporate this stuff into our science fiction because it has the ring, not only the ring of truth, it's got the ring of future truth. It sounds like future science. The time warp factor 7, and the warp drive, like I said, and all these other things. And there's one line in the first one of those two videos that made me think about gravity in a different way. So Newton has the invisible cord of force. Einstein has bent space being responsible. But what this theory says is the planets move in their orbits because it is the most probable course for them to take. It has the highest probability. And that is what the quantum world is all about, is about probabilities. And when he said that planets move along their most probable course based on these alignments of these qubits and all the rest of it, part of my brain said, that sounds revolutionary to me. Revolutionary. And that gets gravity into the barn along with everything else. Now, that bit in the first video about, well, if you spin a qubit one way and if you let a qubit interfere another way, I don't know if there's anything to that or not. But from a science fiction point of view, I've been thinking about this a lot. So what I'm thinking is, the way you connect these stargates, instead of punching a hole in space-time and bending space, real space, the idea is that the universe is a projection from the original Big Bang singularity, which exists in the center of the universe, and is projecting everything out. And you say, well, how can information get out of the singularity? Well, it turns out that, and again, I'm just winging it here. Okay, I'm the chimp, throwing the banana on the floor, but I'm trying to grasp the basics of this theory. So if the universe is a projection from the singularity, and the singularity is the ultimate black hole, and all inside the singularity are all potential quantum possibilities. Every quantum possibility exists simultaneously inside that singularity. How does the signal get out? Well, it gets out through entanglement. Entanglement is not, the black hole captures light, but light is very 20th century science, man. Yes, photons of light, that's 20th century science. Those things are captured if the gravity is strong enough. But Einstein and relativity cannot explain entanglement. Entanglement is either instantaneous or very, very much faster than the speed of light. There's still an argument about that. They're trying to prove it experimentally. But it is much, 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 much more universal force. So, for the science fiction of it, what I'm thinking will do is, instead of like this energy blast at a stargate, and then these two stargates connect because of you bent the space, you physically ripped space-time open and glued them together. The Max Power says, get to the part where this helps me retire at 50. Well, I'm 66, dude, so you're gonna have to do most of the heavy lifting on that because I missed the opportunity. Yeah, we need a macaque. We need to send a macaque through the gate. What, if I understand this correctly? What I would set up these stargates, and I have to come up with a new name because that name is badly used. But basically, the theory would be the universe is projected out from this singularity, and all of these qubits are entangled with the stuff that's inside the singularity. But you could take an area of local space where you could take, I think this is how you'd have to do it. Let's say you had, let's just say you took hydrogen gas. Something, yeah, some physical thing, hydrogen gas, whatever. Let's just say hydrogen gas, something physical. And you couldn't simply open it on the other side. You had to take hydrogen gas from Earth, put it on a spaceship, fly it out to Alpha Centauri, and unload it there, okay? Then you would have a series of lasers or masers or crazers or whatever. You'd have this enormous array pumping enormous, incredible amounts of energy onto a very, very small scale. So on both sides, on the Alpha Centauri side and on the Earth side, you've got a film of hydrogen atoms that are contained by magnetic fields. Okay, so far so good, right? On the Earth side, you hit these qubits with very high energy pulsed lasers, and they obviously have to be the frequencies and all the rest. But you're going to hit this curtain, this 100-meter wide disk of hydrogen atoms. You're going to hit it with these lasers, and you're going to change the quantum state vectors of the qubits inside that ring. And if you can get all of those qubits to align, then the other ones will have to align the same way because of entanglement. And that's when the universe no longer recognizes a difference between these two coordinates. That I like cubital rings. It's got a nice ring to it. That if you could make all of the qubits inside this disk spin exactly the same way, get all of them to spin exactly the same way, the other entangled qubits would have to spin the same way, except in reverse. And then when you cross that boundary, you are basically rewriting the holocode on a very, very local level, because the original singularity, the let there be light singularity, that singularity is billions of light years away. We're talking about a very, very small local alignment of qubits that align with other qubits, and it takes enormous amounts of energy to align these qubits. On this side, you got to align them on the other side at the same time, so they link up with each other. These two coordinate sets now become instantaneous, and your ship goes into one plane and immediately out the other. And you don't violate relativity because you haven't traversed real space. You've simply switched from one coordinate set to another. So what you're basically doing is, this is the hack code in the simulation. And then you can start getting into simulation theory, and so basically what you're saying is, in order to fire up the Stargate, you've got to turn on all of these energy lasers, and they would be invisible. But what you might see is, if you're focusing all these lasers or microwave lasers, or those are masers or whatever, and you're trying to get all of these qubits aligned, the visual effect could be, you'd be looking through this thing, you'd see the regular star field beyond it, and then in little areas, and it would start to spread like a fractal kind of a thing. Like little areas would suddenly just start to get a little bit fuzzy, and then you'd see different stars in little areas, and over time, as all these qubits start aligning, they start to increase the alignment of other ones, and then the thing just sort of fractally kind of just dissolves into the stars as seen from the destination. And I don't know if this is garbage, but if it is garbage, it's the kind of garbage I want to use for a science fiction TV show, because it sounds cool and it looks fabulous. Those little spheres, those crystal spheres. And now I'll go for the kill. If simulation theory is correct, then there has to be someone that created the simulation. And you look at all the way that proteins behave, and these little things walking molecules down. Well, that's how you create the universe out of matter. But if you look at the animations that you just saw, the creator of the simulation is God. And it's not like kind of God, and it's not kind of, it's God. And what I'm trying to say here, I'm not trying to say anything blasphemous. What I'm trying to say is this: if God has to create the universe out of matter, if he has to create it, which he did, let there be light, flash, this looks like the universe that God would create. It looks like it. It looks like gold and crystal, and I think that's a compelling piece of data for the argument. It feels like this is how, if you had the ability to create something beautiful, this is how you would do it if you had to make it manifest and make it real. So who knows? Anyway, I think it's really cool, and I am I'm really down with it, and I think it's really unusual, and I need to start getting into the actual theory rather than these really cool animations. Then you can start finding. I mean, what did I say this guy's name was? I can't even remember his bloody name. It's how bad it is. Where did I put him? Hang on. Well, wherever he is. I want to say Jepson. It's not Jepson. Hang on. Paget, Jason Paget. So this could be the Paget effect, or the Paget phenomenon, or the Paget field, or whatever. In Paget's artwork, I noticed the flower of life pattern came up. May want to look into that rabbit hole. Yeah, this is just, I don't know. I just love it. I just think it's really, really, really cool. Anyway, enough about that. So, hey, you might get your 3-hour tour tonight. I thought I was going to be on the rocks because I got very little sleep, but I'm on a roll now and amped up, and so yeah. What do we got? We got we only an hour 16 in. Is that right? Yeah, it's early. Time flies when you're having fun. All right, so let's jump into the questions. We'll do the questions and then we'll call it a night. And just want you to know this is stuff that I'm thinking about, and I'll continue to talk about and rock about and do all those things. And meanwhile, my full daily attention will be number one, get the right angles out, and maybe a hot mic if something really grabs me. But mainly, get these micro segments edited, get them up on the website, get them up on the YouTube page, and then schedule Gary Sinise so that we have enough to go ahead and do a membership drive, because we're running out of time on that membership drive. Yeah, the qubits, man. This is 21st century science, and the Webb Space Telescope is, to me, the dividing line between 20th century and 21st century science. Hubble is obviously 20th century science, and the Webb telescope, when was it activated? 22, 23, something like that. It has already found enough anomalies in the Standard Model to realize that the Standard Model is woefully inadequate. They're trying to save it. You got physicists saying now, well, let's talk about what happened before the Big Bang in order to create the singularity. And it's like, guys, you're not going to get there. You can't get there from here. I think something like this feels correct to me. So anyway, so much for that. Okay, here we go. Questions. Yeah, I'd be very happy if it turned out that the slowness of the website was due to 1 or 2 uploaded images or something, and I'm trying to get this guy to just delete these 2 things. But things are just tedious, unfortunately. We get enough members, we can have a web person as well as a producer person and an editor person, and I don't have to be pulling this whole hay cart by myself. That's not the right page. Oh, come on, Bill, you can do this. It's not that hard. Here we go. Sorry about the delay. We're working on it. We're experiencing technical difficulties. Please stand by. I wonder who's old enough to remember those days where TV broadcasts would just fail. Just be in the middle of a show like, ooh, 1 moment, please. We're still tweaking this 20th century technology here. We're just trying to get the hang of it. Members, member forum, hurrah. Baron of Grey Matter remembers, yeah. We're experiencing technical difficulties. Please stand by. Okay, here we go. Stratosphere Studio questions for 4/14/25, Monday Pop Culture, curated by Marusha Dark. Thank you very much, Marusha. Let's see what we got here. Yeah, I missed the anthem and the sign off too. They used to play High Flight when they signed off at 1 a.m. and then somebody invented the infomercial. Said all this dead air, nobody's. I mean, you got the equipment. Let's just pay you next to nothing for it, and then thing you go. Okay, so we got Rodney Rowe here. And we got a Roadrunner, we got a Ray Juarez, we got a Marusha Dark, we got a Eric Blake, we got a Marusha Dark, we got a Jaser McFarland. We can do those. Okie dokie. Rodney Rowe says, hey, Rodney. Hi, Bill. Hail, Bill. That's an important distinction. Hail, Doomcock. I need to talk to him again. I haven't talked to him in a while. Hope he seems to be doing well. I asked Grok if it could analyze your website and find out why it's loading so slow and make some suggestions with sample coded stuff. It can't directly access your site and make changes, but at least you can have accurate ammo to give to who you hire. Just a thought, pop your link into Grok and ask. I will do that. We have had a couple of members stand up and give us some metrics, and I forwarded those to the web guy. The current web guy. So I'm trying real hard to, get this thing going. But thank you for the suggestion, and I will have a little talk with my buddy Grok. Grok and I haven't been on the best of terms lately. Grok said I was using ChatGPT, but I swear to God I wasn't. I don't even like ChatGPT. I can't stand it. I hate being accused of something I didn't do. All right. Roadrunner. Greetings, friend Bill. Hello, Roadrunner. Thank you again for the suggestion. Instant nostalgia. You mentioned the Polaris nuclear submarine ad in the back of the comic book several times. I also spent a lot of time dreaming about having one of those patrolling a nearby river. Yeah, I lived in Bermuda. I was ready to go deep with that thing, man. Actually, the nice thing about living in Bermuda is you didn't have to go deep. You could go out there scuba diving. The reefs were 25, 30 feet deep, and I've been out on reefs 30 feet deep, I don't know how many times, 100 times maybe. And the deepest I've been is 60 feet for a dive on a wreck called the Mary Celeste. Not the Mary Celeste, a different Mary Celeste. Hey, here's a super chat from Breck Nichols. Greetings from Dallas, Texas. Hello, Dallas. Becoming a member tonight, thank you so much. I agree with you about the mystery of creation of the physical universe, like a Mandelbrot set. The deeper you go, the complexity never ends. It has the ring, doesn't it? Breck, it just feels, you know what it is? I'll tell you why. It feels right because it's beautiful. And beauty is one of the mysteries of life. There's no, like consciousness. Thank you again for the membership. It means the world to me. The consciousness is inexplicable, and beauty is too. I just look at this stuff and I say, you know what? Well, this is, I don't, not like I have lots of grand thoughts or anything, but if I was God, this is how I'd want the universe to look at the Planck level. Anyway, he says, I found a photo of one that was assembled in the backyard. I'm sure I've seen this picture. Let me have a look. Yes. Hang on. I will do something for our viewers here. Here is, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to take a second to do something. I'm going to show you how young men of my age learned that life is not fair, and that life is just essentially a meaningless black void of existential dread, and you generally get to discover this at about age 6 or 7. In the back of Boys Life magazine, and thank you very much for this, was this ad, which I shall now place into your view screens. Hang on. Got to do it twice. Here we go for YouTube. Here's the ad, and this will bring back memories for old codgers like myself. Oh, damn it! I hate that. I hate it when I don't know why when I bring it into YouTube it just floats around. I'll try it again. Stay. Good. Here's the ad. Okay, the Polaris nuclear submarine. Look at that. It's $698. 698. It's over 7 feet long, big enough for 2 kids. You can see the guy in there. Look above the yellow box. See the 2 guys sitting there back and front looking through the periscope. He's got a control panel, shoots torpedoes. Man, hang on a second, Twitch. I forgot about you there. Give me a second. Here it is. Twitcheroos. Here's the Polaris nuclear sub. I wanted one of these so badly, and I asked my dad for one. I mentioned this before. I lived in Bermuda, and I was, I had a private beach which I didn't own, but my father was managing, and I said, Dad, and I knew we could afford 698. It wasn't like it was 6698, something unreachable, 698. And so like I said, I asked him, can we please get the Polaris nuclear sub so that I can go tooling around out there in the ocean and in the rivers or whatever the case may be. Well, by the way, this is, as far as I am aware, the only extant photo of one of these things in real life. And I have searched the internet for these things. I'd seen this years ago, but after a long search, this is what you got when you ordered your $7 nuclear submarine. This is what you got. Now, let me put it up there, and then I will add additional commentary. Hang on. I'll move this kind of over here a little bit. Hold on there, Twitchies. And here we go, Twitch. Here's what you actually got. Now, you can see from the watermark there, where whatever drugstore they sent their photographs to be developed, July '67, perfect, that's just about right. Now, that is a long way from what you got, and it's made out of cardboard, but let me tell you something. I would have been very, very, very happy with this, man. I would have been very, very happy with this. I think that thing is in many ways even cooler. Now, I don't know if you get a second kid in there. I guess that kid could scrunch forward and put his legs underneath there. I suppose it's possible. But boy, oh boy, I think it's cool. I think it looks more like a spaceship, frankly. And I would have had the time of my life with this thing. But all my dad said was, "Oh no, Bill, we can't do it. We can't get it. Why not? Because it's made out of cardboard." And when he said it's made out of cardboard, not only a piece of me died, but the most important piece of me died. Some piece of my immortal soul just withered away. But if it's made out of cardboard, then how can we take it into the ocean? Well, you can't. Well, that's not fair. It's not fair. It's not what they didn't say it was a cardboard submarine. No. And you know what else is a heartbreaker? I'll tell you what else is a heartbreaker and ruins the childhood of millions of young men and turns them into bitter old coots like myself. The Polaris nuclear submarine is made out of pressed cardboard, and sea monkeys don't have little fedora hats and briefcases that they put on when they go to work. And the mommy sea monkeys aren't dressed in little dresses. The frickin' sea monkeys are brine shrimp that live for an hour. In fact, I don't know if I ever got them to actually move. But you see the ads for the sea monkeys. Well, I'll show you what a frickin' ad for sea monkeys look like. Frickin' play with me. I'll tell you, sea monkeys. I'll give you sea monkeys. You want to see sea monkeys? Here's sea monkeys. Come on, I want the ad. Show me the ad. There we go. Here. Here's what you thought you were going to get. You thought you were going to get that. Right? Hang on, Twitch. Right? You're going to get... Look, they're so eager to please, they can even be trained. In fact, I'm going to read the whole thing just so you can understand how brutally, brutally, brutally awful, worse than Stalingrad growing up in the 60s was for children in America. Enter the wonderful world of amazing live sea monkeys. Own a bowl full of happiness, instant pets. They're pets. Just add water, that's all. In 1 second, amazing sea monkeys actually come to life. Yes, they hatch instantly, right before your eyes. Now simply grow and enjoy. Now simply grow and enjoy the most adorable pets ever to bring smiles, laughter, and fun into your home. So eager to please, they can even be trained. Lies! Always clowning around, these frolicsome pets swim, stunt, and play games with each other. Oh, the nerve of these bastards. And $1.25 too at that outrageous price. Because they're so full of tricks, you'll never tire of watching them. And raising sea monkeys is so easy, even a 6-year-old can do it without help. I was a 6-year-old. Sea monkeys eat very little. I was not worried about that. There's plenty of peanut butter in the, and they keep their water so clean they require only a minimum care, although they love attention, you bastards. Anyone who enjoys the company of pets will adore sea monkeys. Best of all, we even show you how to teach them to obey your commands like a pack of friendly trained seals. What a way to surprise your guests. All right. Okay. Now let's look at what the sea monkeys really look like. I'm not going to do a close-up of them because they're more interesting in a close-up. I want to see. Just imagine a tank full of, again, they're so tiny they're practically microscopic. Just imagine an aquarium tank full of stuff that's just not there. Although that actually looks pretty cool. Yeah. Yeah, here. Perfect. They still sell them apparently. They haven't been guillotined yet or put in camps. Here's what you actually get. Hang on, YouTube. Come on. Okay, here we go. Okay, you can go away. I don't need you. Go away. Let's try you again. Come over here. Come to me. All right, we'll do it this way. Do you want to be that way? Fine. Here. Why are you not showing up, you swine? Hang on, YouTube. I know you're being deprived. Oh, because it's a web page. That's why. Hang on. Hang on. I'm not. No one gets ripped off here. We're not the Sea Monkey Company. We're not the Polaris Nuclear Sub Company. When we say we're going to show something, we by God show it. So here's what your sea monkeys look like. Look. They can be trained. See them with their little hats and their little briefcases going to work. You can train them. Baron of Gray Matter says $1.25 was 5 weeks of allowance. Small price to pay for a pack of trainable pets that are easy to raise and grow and eat so little. They keep their water clean. Now, obviously, I'm being a little facetious. Some big part of my brain admires the fact that millions of children's childhoods were ruined by just sheer fraudulent advertising. The X-ray specs didn't work either, if you really want to know. So, anyway. Well, thanks, Roadrunner. You've completely bummed me out and destroyed my mood. Now everybody I know and everybody my age is ready to go out and murder somebody, so thanks a lot. No, but actually, thanks a lot. It's something I've talked about, and I was glad to be able to show the picture. I thought this might be an easier subject to talk about rather than talking about story mechanics, the colonies, and all of your other endeavors. It's not. It's heartbreaking. It's soul-destroying. And curse you. Thank you very much. P7 2017 says paid a quarter to play Pong more than once. Yes, I've spent many, 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 many quarters in my day playing. I remember when Space Invaders came out. I was a senior. No, I just got as a freshman in college. I wasn't a freshman. I was a freshman at Miami-Dade Community College, which is high school with ashtrays. But I was a sophomore at the University of Florida, and they had Leonardo's Pizza on the corner of 13th and University, and they had tables, and you could sit down at the table so you could play Space Invaders. And they had 2 sets of controls, so you could play with a friend for 50 cents, which was probably about what I was spending on food at the time. So I'm losing a little weight, by the way. Slowly coming off. Down about 7-8 pounds, I think. So we'll see. So that's good. Yeah. I wanted, ventriloquist dummy, throwing your voice, make your voice come in. Throwing your voice. It's a tough childhood, man. Tough. I envied those kids who lived in the projects because they didn't have to get Boys Life magazine and didn't have to go through what we went through, the living hell, the nightmare of our existence, the nightmare. Ray Juarez, hey, Bill, just a suggestion post tonight. Thank you. I theorize the site is slow because the forum, I saw you earlier saying, hey, beat your question. Only members can see the forum, and it might be getting called even when it isn't the active page. The slowness is built up over time, so it feels correct. You may want to ask others, though I'm just spitballing. Second, as a heads up, unlisted videos appear in public playlists. The backstage has been visible for some time. That's not good. See, I've got this guy going through the whole thing, trying to comb the whole thing out. Unlisted videos appear in public playlists. Backstage has been visible for some time, and I keep forgetting to mention it. Now, the backstage should be... it's visible to members. Are you saying it's... Because I did test this not terribly long ago. It shouldn't show up if you're not logged in as a member. But make sure the playlist is also unlisted. You can have a link to the playlist of the website for members, but we'll keep all the videos private. Oh, I see, on YouTube. So when I put them in the YouTube, yes. The videos, yes. Damn it. Thank you, Ray. Thank you. I was keeping those, that's the only real member benefit we have is the members only show, one of which I want to do make public, by the way, at some people's suggestions, because they really are a lot of fun. Yes. I'm so glad you pointed that out, because when I did the story mechanics page, I uploaded the first episode, but I kept it unlisted. But when I went to the page, it was showing up because it was showing up in the playlist. The playlist was public, even though the video was unlisted. Thank you. A couple of your playlists have videos that don't belong. Firewall has a Demolition Ranch clip on it. Great. Hope these help. Thank you. Have a good night, and praise Bean. Thank you. Bean's doing okay. He's having a little trouble walking. He's like those fire engines, that have the driver in the back. When he goes around a corner, kind of the caboose kind of swings around a little bit. He's an old cat. But I spent a lot of time with him last night and today, and he's purring a lot, and he's happy. And he's not as sick as he was. His digestion's back. He's losing weight consistently. He's not keeping down as much food as he needs to. But in any event, he's a happy cat, and he's warm, and he's well fed. He's got lots of water. He's at home, loved. Natasha takes great care of him, and he's a good dude. Okay, Marusha's got a new Turing's test. Marusha, you're such a regular that I can just say this. Having just gotten off of talking about all of this kind of stuff for an hour, I kind of want to pass this one. Do you have another one? You do. So I'm going to pass this one if you don't mind, and I'll take a look at it afterwards, but I will definitely get your second one. Here's a super chat from Kisama001. Thank you. Back in 2021, an Italian artist sold an invisible sculpture for $18,300. It was made literally of nothing. Low IQ people with too much money. Didn't the guy who duct taped a banana to a wall just sell that for like $1 million or something like that? Yeah, people with too much money. I know what you can. I know what you can do. Come this way. Step this way. So, we got an Eric Blake next. Tonight, the case of the jockey horror chicken show. Oh. A little verbal acuity. I see. P7 2017 says, if I ever got a tat, it would be Alfred E. Newman in profile. All right, brother, you could do worse than that. Okay, so Bill, have you been made aware of the reports regarding multiple screenings of the Minecraft movie? Yes. Brace yourself for my layout and point as I see you shiver with anticipation. Anyway, here's the story. Yes, theaters are now starting to advertise special chicken jockey screenings specifically for these experiences so as to contain the insanity for the sake of normal viewers. So I'd say this ought to bring back memories of Frankenfurters and time warps, wouldn't you say? So I've talked before and not too long ago about having been at the Rocky Horror Picture Show, which was a lot of fun. The Minecraft movie has a line in the movie called Chicken Jockey, and everybody in the theater waits for that line. Everybody goes with full buckets of popcorn, and when they say Chicken Jockey, everybody throws their popcorn in the air and water bottles, and everything goes flying, and it's just a riot. I don't mean a riot in the fun way. I mean it's a riot. It's a Gen Z riot. I'm not amused by that. I find that completely different than the Rocky Horror Picture Show. One guy bought a live chicken, and it's not just the hey Gramps, okay boomer. It's that the Rocky Horror Picture Show had stuff that was. We didn't make a mess. The purpose of the chicken jockey thing, as near as I can tell, is to make as big a mess as possible. Rocky Horror had all these different cues, and it was just so much more clever. And the music today, these kids that they listen to, is just noise and their pants hanging down and get off my lawn. I'm not impressed by the Minecraft thing, but if you haven't seen it online, it is definitely something. Look, on the other hand, I do remember back when I had cartilage and hormones, and the amusement of just mayhem is something to see. Chris LSR said, did I ever see the Rocky Horror Picture Show at the Grove Cinema? I might have seen it at the Coconut Grove Cinema. I certainly saw it up in Gainesville, but I'm sure I saw it down in Miami. I remember the Coconut Grove Cinema, the cinema. Yeah, Marusha Dark says the poor janitors, it's really just regular people, and honestly, they put so much popcorn down there. You really need like a snow shovel. I mean, it's like this thick on the floors. I mean, everywhere. So, I don't know. Yeah, so it does. It does bring back memories to some degree, the participation and the anticipation and all the rest of it. But it seems a lot more the mouse is just not engaging today. Anarchic? Too much anarchy. So, anyway. Low IQ humor. Yes, exactly. Precisely correct, Baron of Grey Matter. Beastly peasants with their beastly ways. Filthy peasants. They're revolting. The peasants are revolting. Marusha Dark. Topic. Sweet true lies. Lack of truth and lack of purpose each have the potential to lead to death, destruction, misery, and suffering. Oh boy, don't we know. Many people find meaning and purpose in religion. Others point out that religion is merely a fiction. On the off chance that one's particular religion happens to be right, then you win, but for any given religion this is unlikely, so let's set that aside. So let's set aside that case for the moment. If the choice is between one or the other, between reality and purpose, how do you choose? How do you strike a balance between comforting lies and miserable certainty, between truth and meaning? Well, I kind of reject the premise. As a person who spent a significant part of my life believing that the whole thing was comforting lies and living in miserable certainty, and utterly convinced that I had it all figured out, I went through a period of intense hardship, and one of the things that a period of intense hardship will do for you is it will get you some humility, or it'll kill you. But it'll do one or the other. The people that survive alcoholism, either through 12-step program or not, or drug addiction, the people that survive it come out of it with a profound sense of humility. I saw David Bowie, first time I saw David Bowie was on the Midnight Special. He sang Space Oddity. And I wanted to kill him because I was going to space and hearing Major Tom and and all that stuff. I just wanted to kill him. And he was wearing like a saffron butterfly thing, and he red hair and the weird makeup, and I just wanted to club him. Different, weird. But over time, I grew to really like the guy, and as I got into the 80s, I got to be one of my favorite people. And then as I got older and older and older, and he got older too, I liked him better and better and better, to the point where now he's one of my favorite people. Not just his music, and I've got a lot of his music, but I just like the person that David Bowie became. I liked him a lot, and I saw an interview with Bowie when he was, I don't know, maybe 10 years before he died. He was certainly mature, but he wasn't as old as he was on Extras, for example, which was brilliant. But he was certainly mature, Bowie. And he was talking about, do you ever drink? He said, no, I haven't had a drink in 15 years or whatever. He says, nothing, not even beer or wine. He says, no, nothing. Can't have a drink. I'm an alcoholic. Alcoholics can't have drinks. He said, my life has become wonderful, and if you think I'm going to throw all of that away for a drink, you're out of your mind. I'm not going to do it. And he just struck me as having become much more humble. I'll tell you, and I'll say something else about humility. Humility is a remarkably attractive quality in people, especially in people who you formerly loathed for their egos. And the prime example of this for me is Mike Tyson. I despised Mike Tyson. I despised him to the marrow. I thought he was just an animal and needed to be put down. I mean, I really genuinely would see him and just think, this guy belongs in a frickin' cage. He belongs in a cage. And he scared me. And I thought he was absolutely out of control. He was biting off ears and and jumping up in interviews and getting ready to kill people, and I just thought, Jesus. And then all of a sudden, Asa Findi says, I just don't like anybody with the last name of Tyson. No, I just don't like posers with the name of Tyson. And then all of a sudden, I mean, like overnight, I saw him just become like like almost Zen, I'm not anything, and maybe a little bit harsh on himself there, but he just became soft-spoken and quiet and wise about things, and he just really developed real humility, and I just thought, my God, I actually really like this guy. I kind of feel the same way about as another person who I used to despise. What the hell is his name? His face is right in front of me. I mean, I really just couldn't stand him. I want to say Richard something. Okay, I give up. He's got a big podcast now. He's become a lot more conservative. He was married to Katy Perry. What's his name? British comedian. Mike Rock. No, not Dawkins. Not Tom Cruise. It'll come. And when it comes, it's all going to come in a flood. It's all going to hit at the same time. No, not Meatloaf. Russell Brand. Thank you. Russell Brand. Yes, Russell Brand. And now I like Russell Brand. I thought he was just a dick, but now he's he's just changed, man. He's just changed. They're all following along in my footsteps. So so anyway, all of this to say that once I developed a little bit of humility about things, I began to realize this idea that that we got everything all figured out, and have excluded God based on our advanced intellect. I just went from, well, I was never, I guess by that standard, I was never really an atheist. I just didn't believe in God. I was never, I think that's an important distinction to make. I didn't believe there was a God, but this is an important distinction. I didn't believe there was a God, but I didn't believe that there wasn't a God. That's what real atheists are. They are convinced that there is no God. My religion is true thing is, I'm reading, Marisha's trying to catch up with me here. Well, look, on one level, it's clear that if you've got 10 different religions and they're all preaching that they're the one true religion, then logic locks that out. Then it just becomes a matter of faith, and that faith is predicated largely on where you're born and where and all, when and to whom and all the rest of it. And I don't want to go quite down the same path as all religions are equally valid, and I can make the materialist argument to say that the happiest that people have ever been on Earth, and happy is my target. I want maximum human happiness. That's what I'm really interested in, and the things I believe in because I think those things serve their purpose. Hey, you are bastard Baron of Gray Matter with your $2 super chat. Bill, hey Bill, Katy Perry beat you to space. Ha! She did. More injustice. I think, you know what I think they ought to do? I think they ought to put Katy Perry inside one of those Polaris submarines and launch her into the sun. You happy now? All right then. There's another day ruined for me. Katy Perry kissed the dirt and she liked it, says Max Power. Yeah, well, she didn't get into orbit, did she? No, I didn't think so. So if you want to make the materialist argument, then I'm Christianity all the way. There's nothing on earth that approaches the level of happiness that a Christian Western society has provided for millions, hundreds and hundreds of millions of people. Whether there's a God or not, that's not up for discussion. That is, if you want to play the wager game, then that's the bet. But the more you get into things like let there be light and quantum behaviors and things that look more and more inexplicable in terms of what the nature of reality really is, and as we gain the ability to simulate things and we see analogs down below as up above, the evidence for a creator, I think, gets more powerful every day. And the deeper I dive into things, like protein folding and all the rest of it, the more open-minded I become with the humility that I've acquired through other areas in my life where I was basically feeling like I'm just out there in the dark by myself. I feel much better this way. And this isn't Pascal's wager. I was not afraid of the atheist viewpoint. I was not afraid of there is no afterlife and it's all oblivion and everything's an accident. I found it, looking back on it, remarkably unfulfilling, but I wasn't afraid of it. It wasn't like, I couldn't face it and I ran away from it. I just think the evidence is pointing to something that's much, much, much more complex than we, with our little chimp brains, are able to comprehend. And this is where the humility comes in. And this is what I don't see among any of these leading voices of atheism. I don't see any humility in them at all. None. They're absolutely sure they got it all figured out. And Bill Maher is like, oh, you believe the story about the big hairy guy in the sky, huh? See? It's like I believe the story that the big hairy guy in the sky may be the closest that many of us are able to appreciate the unknowable. That's as good an image of a controlling force as you could probably ask for. I kind of think that to believe that that the big hairy guy in the sky is all there is to him is not something I think most believers would say. I think most believers would say that God is unknowable, and so the image that we see is the image that we see. And when the Bible says God created man in his own image, you can take that literally, but taking it figuratively doesn't mean it's not literally true either. You see what I'm saying? The Ref Ryan is saying exactly where I am now. To think humans are at the top of the universe is laughable. So Marisha says, to clarify, since your goal is maximal happiness, you'd say a lie that makes you happy is preferable to a truth that makes you miserable. No, you're missing my point. My point is that I don't think that the lie is a lie. That's my entire point. That's why I reject the premise. If I thought that belief in God was a lie, it's just a lie to make me happy, then I wouldn't really believe in God. But I've come to believe in God, and the fact that it makes me happy is a side effect. It's a side effect. I've come to believe it because I think that is the most likely case. So I don't. I got to God through science. I got to God through an understanding of how complex the creation is, and how much of a leap of faith it takes to believe that that random factors created all of this. I mean, it's very comforting, makes me happier, and I have seen things that are very difficult to explain from a materialist point of view. So in any event, all I can tell you, all I can tell you is this, right? To the limits of my faith, okay? All I can tell you is this. A week ago, it might have been exactly a week ago, might have been exactly 2 weeks ago. I honestly don't remember. It's hard for me to keep track of time. But either 1 week or 2 weeks ago on a Monday night, I thought that my friend Bean was on his last day. His digestive system had shut down. He was basically pooping clear liquid. He wasn't moving. He wasn't recognizing me. And on Monday night, I thought, Tuesday, I'm going to have to make the call, and the vet's going to come, and that's, and I've been preparing for it, and I know it's coming, and it is coming. It's not like he's getting younger. But on a Monday, I thought, Tuesday, I'm going to have to make this call. And then that night, he just walked into the bedroom and got up on the bed and was purring away. Turns out he was sick. When I realized that he didn't get a reprieve, he got a respite. He didn't get a pardon, he got a delay. But when I saw my cat back again in the kitchen, I just got down on my knees and thanked God for having another week or 2 weeks or maybe a month or whatever, hours. I had this overwhelming desire. It wasn't an impulse. It certainly wasn't like somebody was pushing me on my knees. Overwhelming desire to thank God. Not that this was a miracle. I don't define miracles that low. I was just grateful that I had more time with this guy, and that he was back, mentally back. And it's been one day at a time, and it's going to continue to be one day at a time. He's having difficulty walking. He's losing weight. I know how this story is going to end. I'm grateful for every minute that I have. But when I realized that it wasn't over, that I'd been given more time, it just knocked me to my knees, and I said, thank you very much for this blessing. You know? And I don't want to be misunderstood about this. It's I don't have a utilitarian view of this. I have a utilitarian rational view for a belief in God, and I also have a mystical emotional view. And I used to think that emotions were all internal to the brain and just part of the algorithm of chemistry, as Yuval, whatever the hell his name is, all thought is just an algorithm of chemicals. We're all just algorithms of chemicals. And I used to think that my emotional life and all of that spiritual life was just simply chemicals doing their things, and a little dopamine and firing down the receptors, and then the brain shuts down, you die, and that's it, period. It's rot away. But the more we learn about consciousness, the more we realize, no, that doesn't seem to be the case. The more we learn about consciousness, the less we know about it. The more we study it, the further away it gets. And so I don't know what to tell you, Marusha. Just the part of the premise that I throw away is I don't think it's a decision between a comforting lie and a miserable truth. I think it's a comforting truth. I'm not saying it's a miserable lie. It might be. I'm certain that people like Richard Dawkins are not lying. They're not pretending to be atheists. They really believe it. I've just never, ever heard a materialist cover the ground that I would like some answers to, because they can't. 11-dimensional universe, with where time is clearly an illusion of motion through a fourth dimension, and you've got this all figured out. Light behaving like particles and waves, and sometimes particles and sometimes waves, depending whether we're watching or not. And if we put a camera in there, then it decides to go one way. And if we take the batteries out of the camera, it still goes that way. But if we take the camera out of the room, it goes the other way. What does that say? I mean, that's not up for discussion. That's data. That's evidence. It's a reproducible experiment that says that the universe is infinitely more complex and unknowable than we think it is. And so I start to find your explanation unlikely from a rational point of view. I find it unlikely. I look at these animations of these messenger molecules, and it is, honest to God, it is a little walking string of proteins that walks down a long other string of protein and drags this giant sack of nutrients along with it. And I understand how macroevolution works. I'm probably going to manage to piss off every single person listening to the show, but to me, macroevolution is just so much evidence for it, it's just overwhelming. But this is different. This has to work. The biology has to work out of the box, and I don't know, man. It looks unlikely to me, because the mechanisms that we're talking about, the mechanisms of DNA and RNA, are necessary for the first life forms. In order to have metabolism, this stuff has to be in place, right? I'm missing something? I don't know. I that's where I am right now. A lot of times I think there's a lot to be said for this old saw that your opinion on something is where you stop thinking. So I'm continue to think, but the more thinking and looking I do, the more I lean towards a sense of humility and a sense of appreciation for the unknown and the unknowable. So I don't see them as I don't see them as, I don't buy the premise that they are mutually exclusive. And finally, Jazer McFarlane, who's got an awesome looking avatar, looks like a frickin' man from Uncle, and maybe the coolest name ever, Jazer McFarlane. We're going to use Jazers on the cubits. It's a really cool name. The Colonies. Can we start a members forum that is short stories of supporting characters or world building history? Yes, I've talked about this before. It's been a long time since I talked about it. I want to crowdsource the Colonies. I want all the Chrome. I want all of the lore to be, not all of it obviously, but the vast majority of it to be fan based, and then it has to pass through a filter, because if it doesn't pass through the filter would be me and the writing staff, and But yes, I'd love people to develop histories of the planets. I'd love people to name the geography. Once we give you, here's what the planet looks like, here's a rendering of the planet, now you can go ahead and map this whole thing, and it becomes canon. So yeah, Bill could make a request such as, I need a criminal organization history and 3 characters who antagonize the Pioneer family while drilling for water on a planet. Completely, yes, I think this would be great. Nobody else is doing this. The legal issues are a little dicey, but they're not insurmountable. What they would essentially come down to in order to do that would be the person submitting this stuff would have to understand that they are not being hired, that they have zero, before it could be accepted, they'd have to sign a contract. It would basically say zero ownership, 100% the rights revert to the Colonies Inc. And those kind of things can be done relatively simply. But the only thing that, and lawyers would have a hell of a hard time with this, but I'm sure it could be done. Basically, the risk would be, that would be great, but if this thing gets monetized somehow, and you come and start saying, hey, these 3 action figures that you're selling, I came up with these 3 action figures. It's like, yeah, but we can't run it like that. You contributed them. You donated that's probably the way to think about it. That's actually an interesting legal way to think about it. It never occurred to me before. I think the way that would be structured would be that you agree that you are donating the IP, and that, the Rough Ryan says make that contract part of the membership. Yeah. So I think that's probably reasonable. Anybody can contribute, and you have to sign this agreement. And once we've got it signed, we will take a look at what you've done. And in the contract, it says not only do not own any of it, you also understand that you may work on this for 3 years and have all of it rejected just because we don't like it, just because we just don't think it works. But I think the chance of that happening is very low. I think the gain by having not just the gain in terms of the lore and the quality of the universe, but the gain in terms of the fan experience and all of it is just crowdsource it. Just again, I've had some humility beaten into me. Hey Bill, I volunteer, as Dave Big Boutte, I volunteer my time to play a slimy bureaucrat with a pinky ring in the Colonies, and all I ask is $50, a free Blu-ray, and craft services access. Denied. Darth Chuck the Merciless says it worked for Andy Weir. I don't know who Andy Weir is. But yes, and I love the idea, and especially love the idea, because when you generate these solar systems, you end up with, like, you got a gas giant, you've got like 17 moons, right? And one of them is 250 kilometers across, just an ice ball. But I'd love the fact that somebody named it and named the craters and said that there was that this particular outpost was established and somebody was murdered here. It's just so cool. There's no way to do anything like that by yourself or even with a team of writers. It would just, no, it's a grassroots effort. And I think the only way to get this done is to do it through crowdsourcing, because the crowdsourcing means that it means that everybody is essentially invested in it, and basically everybody would be musicians bringing their own instruments to the the colony's ink would be the conductor that would say, yes, this belongs here, or no, it doesn't. And the perfect example of this is you can't very well have a planet named Planety McPlanet Face unless you tell the world's greatest short story about why it is in fact named Planety McPlanet Face. The world's greatest short story. In which case, okay, you sold me, but you can't have two of them. You know what I mean? So obviously there has to be the ability to select out things that just don't pass muster. But that said, you know, it's a big old world out there, and I just can't wait to get on it. And there are times when I just say, just dude, you know, if I had more cash reserves, honestly, then I'd just leap. Just leap. But I'm actually missing at least one really essential. Well, I'm missing two. But the one single thing that I'm missing that is essential to success, certainly as a crowdsourced project, is I don't have the traffic. I don't have the eyeballs. Critical Drinker does. And so it's not a question of how good your crowdsourcing pitch is. You've got to get large numbers of people in front of it. Now, Star Citizen is two words we haven't used in a long time. They're at what now? Are they at $700 million or something? They finally opened up Pyro. They got their second solar system in play. Okay. I haven't played Star Citizen since 2017. But I could do a lot more with $700 million than Chris Roberts has. I can tell you that much. And I don't need $700 million, and I don't need $70 million. Although $70 million would be nice. I could do it for $7. I could do it for less than that. I could probably start it for $700,000, and then see if you can snowball it from there. But I think the main thing about the colonies is that it's got to be free. It can't be behind a paywall, and this is why it has to be crowdsourced, because it's so contrary to Hollywood thinking. Hollywood thinking is we're going to put up money, and how do we get our money back? But the thing about crowdsourcing is the people that put up the money don't expect their money back. They're donating their money. All they want is cool. So, I mean, I think this thing can absolutely work as a crowdsourced thing. The question is, how do you get enough eyeballs on it? That's the issue. And I need to move through store mechanics and other things that I have to do to get the level of traffic needed to do this, because this is my life, my entire life goal. Ask Angel Studios how they did it. As it turns out, I don't know him very well at all, but in the early days of Friends of Abe, Dallas Jenkins was at a lot of meetings, and I got to know Dallas relatively well. So Dallas knows who I am, and Angel they're the guys that did the, aren't they the guys that did The Chosen? Because whether Angels did The Chosen or not, The Chosen is the pathfinder. The Chosen is the proof of concept that not only can you do it, you can do it great. And my story, unlike their story, doesn't have to end. I think they're doing their 6th season, right? I think that's going to be their last one. This is 160th anniversary of the death of Abraham Lincoln, and the 100th anniversary of the birth of my dad. So that's something. Looking forward on Angel Studios was a distributor. Dallas made The Chosen with his own company. Okay. Thanks for that, Eric. See, I think I keep coming back to this, right? I mean, this. If this wasn't free, I never would have seen it. If I had, if Star Trek was not on television for free, well, I had to pay for the commercials. But that was a small price to pay to get Captain James T. Kirk of the Starship Enterprise. They did The Sound of Freedom, yeah. So once you get into something like a distributor, though, you've got the same problem, and that is they put up the money for The Sound of Freedom. They have to make that money back somehow. If you crowdsource the thing, you don't have to make the money back. All you have to do is make it. That's your entire moral obligation. You take somebody else's money, and they expect that money back plus a profit. You have a moral obligation to do everything in your power to make a profit off of that, and that means behind a paywall or ticket sales or whatever. But if you can get the money up front from people who who not only do not expect to get paid back or cannot get paid back, then all you have to do is make something good. And all you have to do is make something good is the problem with show business today. Nobody out there is making anything good. There's no creative activity out there. I got more creativity I know what to do with. I've got to keep the hamster wheel going. The stepping stone between story mechanics and the colonies is Big Bad Problems. Big Bad Problems was written to be an inexpensive, low-budget movie that could be made for less than $1 million, or probably well less than $1 million. And as soon as I get the story mechanics thing up and running, I'm going to finish that frickin' script, take that around, and crowdsource that puppy, and I'll make it for whatever money we raise. You know, it is a really, really good idea. And anyway, thanks for getting me out of the Polaris Nuclear Sub and back into the wonderful world of this. Just to wrap up for Jazer here, then we can have at it, and Bill can get some ideas that may or may not be as good as what Grok can make. You could throw whoever's idea who made the final cut into the credits at the end of the episode. Yeah, that would be fine with me. I think that's absolutely great. Would be a fun way for some of us to start writing. Members could get constructive criticism too. I think it's great. Have a role for Zoe in Big Bat Problems? As it turns out, I do have a role for Zoe in Big Bat Problems. Alfonso, Rachel, and Bill Whittle are going at it again. I will, Marisha. I'll scroll up in a second. I haven't talked to Zoe about it yet. I get the feeling I can talk him into it, though. I'm going to play a minor character in the convoy of cast-offs and losers and lunatics that make up the Hong Kong Cavaliers equivalent. But basically, Zoe and my storyline will be that I was an F-18G pilot. That's the Growler, electronic warfare pilot. And Zoe was the electronic warfare officer, and we saw one of these things. And we both got drummed out of the Navy because we wouldn't back down about the fact that we saw one of these things. And so I'll be flying the little Sky Arrow, which is a single-seat airplane, and Zoe's going to be running the electronic countermeasures out of the command bus. And so we'll both be Navy pilots. And that's a perfect size for me. It means most of the time, just the airplane up in the sky, a couple shots of me with the canopy. And Zoe will have a much bigger role than I will because he's a much better actor than I am. Yeah. So that's the end of the questions. And how are we doing? Well, it's not a 3-hour tour, but it's not a 1-hour plus tour. It's only 2 hour and 19 minutes. Well, you know what? Instead of 7 castaways, it'll take 5 castaways. I think his call sign will be Sledge, to be honest with you, because it's 20-pound sledge, 40-pound sledge, whatever it is. Yeah, we're leaving and the rest off. We're just taking Gilligan, the skipper, to the millionaire and his wife, the movie star, and the rest is staying at port. So we're only doing a 2 hour and 20-minute tour. Yes, my character is Skid, 20-pound sledge, Skid and Sledge, former Navy pilots. I've got this little Sky Arrow, which I'm going to paint navy gray. The Sky Arrow, which now resides with the person who owns the other half of it, looks like this. And I'm going to paint this sucker navy gray. I'm going to put a little wicked Hang on. Use one. Hang on. Here we go. That's a Sky Arrow. Hang on there, YouTube. It's slower than Christmas, but it's a hang on YouTube. But it sure is fun and it sure is cool. And I'm going to paint it navy gray, and I'm going to put a hummingbird device on the tail and give it make it look like it's our Navy plane. And Zoe can fly in the back seat there too. And I'm gonna mount an M60 on the bottom of this thing, M60 machine gun. And maybe I'll mount two, actually, because I just realized if I mount one in the center line, it's going to shoot off the nose wheel. Probably need to mount two. That'll look badass. Just two M60s, whatever a standard. It can't be belt fed, but I love that airplane. And that airplane, unlike the Long Easy, which was a rocket ship, and I loved it, loved it, loved it, loved it, loved it, loved it, loved it. But the Long Easy is a thoroughbred racehorse, and that is a temperamental airplane, and I had some real problems with that airplane. The Sky Arrow, on the other hand, I've got 500 hours in a Sky Arrow, and that damn airplane, that beautiful little, hang on, that beautiful little airplane is never ever hiccuped, never so much as hiccuped. Yes, that wasn't Tasha calling, but I'm wrapping up the show, so there we go. Okay, well, you probably know by now this show is made possible by the members at BillWhittle.com, and we're very, very grateful for them. As always, we just got passed by a goose. Yeah, bird strikes from the rear. And very grateful for the members, and grateful for everybody else. Thanks again for the continuous kind words and the suggestions and stuff. It's been a fun show. And we will see you Thursday, YouTube. So we'll say goodbye to you first, I reckon. And yep, see you Thursday for your own Stratosphere Lounge.